us all together. So today is another last Sunday of the month, like you always do. It's time for Empowerment Sunday. And today is going to be on marriage. And the topic we have today is disagreements and conflicts in marriage. Just to start off, I know this is a very huge topic, so that we all know that we will try as much as possible to cover grounds as we can. And if there's a need to come back and address it, please, we will do that. We encourage everyone, if you have a question, just try to bring your question early so that we don't run out of time. If you want to write it down, because when it's marriage, probably you don't want to raise your hand. If you want to write it down, please write it down and we will do it. So we just want to show some few grounds before we get into the topic itself. So with me here on the stage and our panel, we have two very experienced people with me. I will just be sitting here and they will be doing the advice and the talking. With me on my left hand is our own daddy and Pastor Oluwaleke Ario, a retired Director General of Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. He's been a parish and area and regional pastor in the RCCG church for over 20 years. He has been married for 35 years plus with 6 children, 5 girls and 1 boy. You can tell the number of experience we have right here. Also on my right is my, he called herself my humble sister and the submissive wife. She is, by profession, a medical doctor, physician, and also a deaconess in the Redeemed Christian Church of God. She's been married for over 23 years, have 4 plus kids. I say plus because there's always somebody in the house. So these are very experienced people. I don't want to add the number of marriage age on this stage. Probably we'll hit 100. So just know that we're going to get good information today. We know that marriage is very important. The topic is disagreements and conflicts. And we'll have our experience people try to break some of these things down. What we believe is that definitely there's going to be disagreements in marriage, whether you like it or not. So far as you put a man and a woman together, there's going to be some disagreements. But that should not be leading to big fights. So they will try to address some of the common things and also try to give advice that will help us. So we'll not get to a place of fight, but we'll be able to address them. So welcome to today, and I'm believing that you do justice to our topic.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's a great honor to be in your midst this morning.
So we'll dive right into this topic, disagreements and conflicts in marriage. So to start off, I just want to start off with our most experienced person on the stage, our pastor here. And the first question we want to ask ourselves is just to just list some of the common disagreements and conflicts that is very common to marriages. I know you've been in this for a long time. You've heard a lot. You've pastored a lot. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Marriage, first and foremost, is ordained by God, according to Genesis chapter 1, verse 27 and 28. So it's an institution that has been created by God himself. And when we are talking about disagreements or conflicts, it is bound to happen because, let's face it, realistically, these are 2 people coming together from different backgrounds without adequately having knowledge of how each other behaves. And they are only going to get together through marriage. So there is bound to be conflict. Even a twin that is born the same day as Taye and Kehinde, they do have problems. Even look at ourselves as human beings, as a system, we have a mouth and teeth. Mouth and teeth do fight occasionally, but that one does not necessarily mean to lead to divorce. Teeth, we have to learn how to live peacefully with tongue. So when you talk about marriage, which involve coming together of a man and a woman, cleave together and become one, there is bound to be disagreements at every stage of the married life. There are certain disagreements common to marriage. One, role conflicts. God apportioned responsibility to a man as well as a woman. The question is, are they performing the role as expected by God? It could lead to disagreements. In the area of parenting, there could be a conflict or disagreement. In the area of finance, there could be conflict or disagreements. In the areas of expectation and values, there should be a lot of conflicts. In the areas of how do we go forward in marriage, there can be disagreements and problems, and so on and so forth. But no matter how this problem may seem to be, because we are talking about Christian marriage, so we should bear that one in mind. And if Jesus is the center and the foundation of your marriage, no matter what type of conflict or disagreement that came up, must be resolved with love of Christ. I have to punctuate there to allow my co-panelists to shed more light on common conflicts and disagreements.
Thank you very much. He's highlighted a lot of things that can bring disagreements and conflict in marriage. Before we continue, I just want to remind us that it depends on how we look at it. Don't look at it as a bad thing. God created everybody with a choice. In other words, you get a say in a thing. So people get into disagreements or conflicts when they're passionate about something. So I'm not going to look at it as something evil or something bad. I look at it as something, just a process. And we can look at it in the light of, this is a necessary process to get a good marriage. We all raised differently from different environments, and a lot of things shape us, so many different expectations. If you grew up in a household where the man provided, you're definitely going to expect that your husband has to be that way, even when the society is changing and evolving, and your spouse grew up in a different household. So there are many things that can bring conflict, but see it as a process you have to walk through to get to the end goal. Particularly for me, parenting was one issue we didn't really agree on, because I was raised in a family where you're going to be whooped. There's corporal punishment. My husband was a good kid, and he was never whooped for a day. So he said, you can be fine without corporal punishment. And I said, no, the Bible says you got to use the rod. So, but we walked through it, and eventually we kind of ended up with a hybrid. Once the goal is you're working together for the expected end, for the good, one thing, eventually comes together. You're working together. So there are many areas. So there's unmet expectations, what you have in your head about marriage, looking at your parents from your household, you bring it into your marriage, whether you like it or not. There are differences in personal values. Some people believe kids have to do this thing and it has to be that way. Everybody has to eat dinner together. Some people believe, don't force kids to eat when they don't want to eat. And also when it comes to external relationship like in-laws, whether we like it or not, it's a family. Everybody's involved. And my kids will say that my background is different from my husband. They are very together. We're not very together. So sometimes I think he's trying to do too much with family, and sometimes he thinks I need to step it up with family. So there are many things that can cause conflict and disagreement, but I don't want us to see it in the bad light. Let's know that it's a necessary step if you're looking to a great marriage. Thank you.
Let me go further to buttress on some of the highlighted common conflicts, especially third party or externalities pressure in marriage. It is bound to happen because of the new phase of life which the couple might not be able to adjust to immediately. Friends that you have been hanging out before you get married, they will still expect you to do things as they used to do, but it cannot be possible. A married person and unmarried, they don't have many things in common. The moment your friend gets married, he has started a new life, and it should be accepted by both of you. I could recollect it when I got married. There are some friends of mine that we used to hang out with me. Many times when they visited, after they have left, my wife will tell me, "Oh boy, you are no more as you used to be. All these your friends that are coming in at irregular hours should stop." So gradually, I separated myself from them because I've got a new life and I have to settle down with my family. Another area of external pressure is appearance. Many of us are parents at that moment, and our children are getting married. We should leave them to settle down in their homes. You don't interfere, or get involved in any of their disputes. Let them learn to adjust to one another and bond together.
Thank you so much. So there's a lot has been listed when it comes to this conflict. And just a reminder, if you have a questions and you don't want to raise, when we get to the place, you want to raise your hand. If you don't want to raise your hands, please reach out to any of the ushers. They will give you a paper and pen to write it down and just pass it on to us here. There are so many things that have been listed. I think a couple of them has been explained. External influences has been talked about. Some roles has been talked about. I want to pick on one because sometimes it's very good to know what is some of this, the root cause of this very conflict. I want to pick on one which I know is very common. I have in mind two of them, but let me start with the first one when it comes to finance. I know that creates a lot of conflict in homes. So I want to throw it to our panel here. Who want to take it first? I want to take it first from here. How does this finance bring out conflicts? And if you want to go ahead and probably make a suggestion on how we can handle it so that we don't move from just, because there's going to be disagreements. The way your woman's house handle finance is going to be different from the way the man's finances. Some homes are there are some homes, they are afraid of money. There are some homes, they spend money. So it depends on where you're coming from. And when now you have these two people in the house. How can you expatiate on those?
So when it comes to finance, a lot of us grew up in a household where the dad was the main breadwinner, so it was easy. When you provide, you kind of run the house, you decide what happens. But fortunately, some of us have found ourselves here where the culture is different and where the two have to work. Now, who calls the shots, And it becomes a problem. Who pays for what? Now, everybody has to contribute because you can't earn your salary and be like, no, only the man has to provide. So at the end of the day, the question is, there's always, initially some conflict. Now, some women are making more than the husband, so how much does he have or more, or what happens? So it becomes a problem, and there's no set rules on how to go. Again, if you have the goal in mind, like this is marriage, my job is to make this a great marriage, a great experience. Marriage is a beautiful thing. You guys can come together and work it out. And then also another thing that can cause problem is somebody is a spender, somebody is frugal, and they just can't agree. Some people want to save, invest, some people want to spend it now. If you keep working together, trying to figure it out, we are adults, we are children of God, and we can work together. Remember that God knows that marriage could be a difficult thing, and that's why the Bible says he that finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from God. I believe marriage that's working great with a lot of compromises attracts a lot of favor, a lot of blessings from God. So that's an incentive to keep working on it. And for instance, but I think at the end of the day, the man, it's on to the man to make it a lot easier for the wife, because a lot of us grew up seeing the man be in charge. And I can use myself as an example. My husband made it a lot easier for me. And today we combine the accounts together. We're on a joint account. So that way, everybody's seeing what's going on, and we're paying the same bill after all. So he made it a lot easier for me. And but anything can be worked through. I don't think anything is very impossible to work with. Praise the Lord.
Let me buttress further on the contribution that has already been made. The Bible made it clear in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8, that a man who fails to provide for his household is worse than infidel. But because of the life in this part of the world, where you have to pay a lot of bills, starting from mortgage, health care, school fees, food, and etc., etc., a woman must be ready to support. God created them as helpmates to man. Therefore, they are expected to complement the effort of man and not leave everything unto him. It depends on how you plan and budget your expenses. But one thing that is very clear in marriage is that there should be a budget system. You should agree on certain things. For instance, if you have aged parents that you need to take care of from both sides, there should be an agreement on what will be going to them every month between you and your husband, or between the wife and the husband. For instance, in my family, there is an agreement between me and my wife before my parents passed away. In fact, it was my wife that went ahead to open an account for my dad before he died. My mother missed it because we were not yet born again at the time she passed away. But my father had the opportunity of doing so. At the moment, I have a mother-in-law that is still about 100 years old. There is a set amount that we send to her every month. So there is no conflict. That is the way of minimizing conflict. But what matters in marriage concerning financial planning is that there should be an agreement, and you should cut your coat according to your size. There should not be an extravagant way of life. Another thing again that is very germane in terms of finance is in a situation where a man loses his job. It could create a problem. But if the woman in the house observe that his husband is not lazy, is not stingy, is not extravagant, he should be ready to fill the gap. So we should know this in marriage so that it will not disintegrate.
Thank you so much. I mean, as they were talking, you realize that some of these things links to another. I'm just want to pick on one. We're talking about finance, but we ended up talking about in-laws. One thing, I know if you are not married, please, it's time to take notes. I didn't realize that, when I get married, I'll have 4 parents instead of 2. So when you are planning, you are young and you're planning for, I'm going to take care of my mom and my dad, you realize that when you get married now, there are 4. And then we start arguing, who do we take care of first? So it is something you might not think it will be a disagreement, but it's going to come. Just prepare. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? We have one question. Can you go ahead? We'll get you a microphone. I know that when we're getting to the end, there's going to be a lot of questions, but I want to say that when we get to the end, we will try to stop on time, and we'll come back again with this topic.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, panel. Thank you for this. I have a question when it comes to finance, because back in Nigeria, probably in Africa, a lot of us, especially the men, they believe running the home is just by taking care of the financial aspect of the house, and every other thing doesn't matter to them. But then they relocate to America, and they realize that what makes them the boss, she also ends what makes them the boss now in America. That so-called control is kind of lost, and there's no other additional characters or qualities to her to that marriage. And before you know it, there's a split. Because she feels she does everything alone. The guy in Nigeria only brings the finance. When the guy got to America, he continued the same thing. So in this case, how, because a conflict results from there and the house gets splitted, everybody goes, divorce. So in this case, how would you advise those who are relocating from Africa, Nigeria, where the culture is a bit different, and relocating to America, and what can a man, extra, that a man can bring to the table, apart from finances, that can help sustain his marriage in the Western world?
Okay. Thank you. Anyway, if you can just pick it up.
My brother, we are talking about cultural conflict here. That is one of the problems. But no matter what is, but let me sound it very clear to you. Divorce is forbidden in Christian marriage. Even if there is a case of abuse, the Bible recommended that there should be a giving gap, separation for a while. And if eventually you divorce, you should remain unmarried. It's extensively explained in Matthew chapter 19, verse 1 downward. If you have time, you can go through it. So let that one be noted by you. No matter what the cause of the cultural conflict, we should bear that one in mind. But at the same time, if a man that lives in Nigeria, where the culture is different from what's obtained in America, there should be an understanding between a man and woman. Most of the conflict we are talking about emanated from the fact that couples were unable to cleave together as one. If the love of Christ is there, you get married to a woman, you should know that it has become part of your body. Bible describes man as head of the wife. Can head be without neck? And the head has to be on the neck until the death, do them part. So that's why you should learn to adjust. Everything borders down on conviction between the couple. Agreements. You are relocating to America. You know that the culture in America is different from Nigeria. The money you have been laid down monthly for upkeep of the house, we no more be the same thing as in America vis-a-vis Nigeria. So that should be a clear understanding. But what do we discover? Even you did not go further. Many young men that are relocated from Nigeria to America, in most cases, forget their family, which is another ball game. The moment they are in America, they take a different leaf of life and forget the people down home. There are a lot of cases of that in Nigeria at the moment that some family are grappling with. So everything borders on clear understanding between a woman and a man who is involved in that kind of situation.
Okay, so I cannot speak for men, but I just want us to understand that the man has to, we're all adaptable, we can change. God created us that way. And if we do not change, there's a high risk you lose your marriage. You can lose it all. So we have to compare. We have to look at it that way and see that if we don't adapt, there's a high possibility that you can lose it all. And nobody wants to lose their marriage because it's never a good thing. Everybody suffers.
Thank you so much. And I'm not going to, they have given the answer, but I want to say that like just what we are doing here is trying to throw light on some of those things, knowing that these are bound to come. And these are some of the issues. It's a leg up so that you don't get to the end of being a conflict and splitting. So you better start talking now. we will continue. I want to, any questions? I want to pick on one of the questions that, and one of the common courses that was listed here. And that was probably I'm talking for all. Some people don't want to talk about it, I'll talk about it. It's about when we talk about making time for each other, and he comes home and is watching TV and watching soccer and watching Arsenal, and don't have time for me. Yes. So you see, some of these small things can lead to big things. So what do you talk? What advice will you give so that some of these things we don't become like making time for each other, and when it comes to intimacy?
Marriage involves sacrifice. Many of us are addicted to one thing or the other. Like myself, I like football. But that one does not mean that I should not give attention to my wife or my family. It goes beyond a woman, even your children. You should not marry yourself to your career or job at the negligence of your family. There should be a boundary between what you love and what you cherish. If you neglect your family and get friendly with your addiction, in the time of trouble, who will come to your aid? Is it football team that you are not seeing physically? You are only watching through television? Or movies that will pay you out? So invariably, family is very important, and necessary attention should be given. Most especially our wives. If I may ask this morning, how many of us, when you wake up and you tell your wife, I love you? Not, my sister said not in Nigeria sense. But these are little things that cement marriage, that make marriage to be bonded with one another. You should give time to your wife, even for romantic situation. There are times when our mothers, they will need us. They have different way of doing it, either by eyes, either by caressing, either by saying something to divert your attention. The woman may be in the room and said, oh, Daddy, could you see me? Oh, there is something I'm seeing here. Can you come over? If you can read between the lines, you will know that your attention is needed. So we should create time to be with our family, to be with our wife and our children. As I said, there are some women that are married to their career, to the neglect of their husband. Vice versa. If you are a man, you should define a line between your career and your family. Because come to think of it, after you have made the money, is it you alone that is going to spend it? You have to use it to take care of your family and make them happy. In fact, it behoves on man, especially, to take care of their family. As I said, 1 Timothy 5:8 says something that is terrible. That if you fail to take care of your family, you are worse than an infidel. What is the essence of being called born-again Christian if you can be compared with unbeliever? God forbid.
Before my sister pick it up, I just want to make, it's a funny joke. For the men, I don't know if you had a quarrel, like disagreement after church service, you realize that it's not coming from the food or the lunch, but it's coming from because you did not say you're looking beautiful in the morning before we left for church. So I want to leave that to you.
Praise the Lord. Yeah, so speaking for the women, I think it's time women, especially from Africa, will grow up and learn to study the man. If you want a beautiful marriage, you got to study your husband. Find out how he communicates. Some of them speak subtly. It's not very clear, but with time, you cannot know when he needs your attention and what he's talking about. And there's a lot of sacrifice that goes in. The man complaining he doesn't like this your friend. He's not going to explain it to you, but he's like, I don't like this friend. the friend is not worth your marriage. The friend has to go, you know. And he needs, I've had to follow my husband to football. I don't even understand what they do. He's explained it, and we went to, what do you call it, these Titans. It was cold. I was there all the time, and people were shouting, people were excited. I wasn't sure what to do. But I had to do that sacrifice. He really wanted to be there, and he wanted me to be there. So it's not a waste of your time. The men appreciate it. And when he compliments you, please accept it. Don't be like, hey, don't stop, you know, all those kind of things. He means it. He may be saying in a joking way, but he means it. And we should be able to accept it and appreciate it. And you can make him the king that he is. You can make him the man that God has created him to be. Even if he goes to, sometimes they go to work, men go to work, they're not treated nice, they're called their names, they're treated rudely. If he comes home, he should know that, this is my territory. He should feel it. It's not in vain. Our men appreciate it. And in return, he's a happy man and you have a happy house.
Thank you so much. Sometimes we need a help from the women to be able to do it more. So when we do it, please accept it in good faith. And let us see on your face that you are enjoying it, and we'll do it. Before we go to the last part, I want to take the last part. We want to talk about some of the ways that we can approach some of these disagreements, because we believe that disagreements are bound to happen. So first you put a man and a woman together, but how do you approach some of this? Because some small disagreements, if you don't approach them well, can be big conflicts. But before we take that part, who have any questions before we go on? Any questions at all? Just a good ahead of note says, if it's 2 minutes before the time and you raise your hand, I'm the moderator, I will put you to the next session. So, just like I said.
Good morning.
Oh, okay, there's a question.
Over here. Okay. Thank you. I've already learned a big thing today. So, I'm sorry, I want to ask his question again, because I didn't really get, an understandable answer. Because it's a pressing thing, and it happens a lot. And I personally know a number of people who are Christians who are losing their marriages over, the exact thing he said. I have questions of my own, and I'm going to ask them. So I'll leave it up to you to choose which one you think you want to answer first. But I think that question is very, very, very important. The first thing is, Matt, you mentioned adaptability, and you said we can all adapt. It all depends on the goal. And my question is that goal. How do we set those goals? What are we working towards? And a sub-question to that is, if we don't have a goal, or if we can't agree on a goal, should we go our separate ways? The second question is, if there are non-Christian elements in a Christian marriage, can we still call it a Christian marriage? A good example of that is, there's infidelity in the marriage, consistent infidelity in the marriage. Is that a Christian marriage? And should it be treated as one? Meaning, should we allow for, the no-no, the divorce? Thank you.
And before we take the questions, I want to make it clear what we are talking about today. We are in a Christian setting. We are Christians, so we're talking about Christian marriages. Just want to make sure that we don't go outside of it. You want to take some of the quick what you asked?
So I don't know what to say about mixed, one is born again and one is not born again. It's a very difficult situation, because even Christians still struggle. But one thing I can say about the goal, again, we're all adaptable. We came to this country. Some of us came with very thick accents. For some reason, you've lightened it up. You're following with the culture. You're able to keep down with job. If you see your marriage as something that is dear to you, you're going to prioritize. And the goal is, whatever happens, this marriage has to survive. This marriage has to do good. So the issue is, but when there's a lot of conflict, I intend that the man is usually older. He went for your hand in marriage. He should take the lead. Sometimes it takes women a while to kind of catch up with what the goal of the house is. The man sets the goal, and is able to work with the wife, to bring her up to speed. Eventually, usually the man comes first, and should help the wife to adapt, like gradually. It's not by force. You must bring the paycheck. Some men are like, you give me your paycheck. No, you're not going to get the paycheck. It doesn't work that way. But gradually, he pays the bill, makes you understand that I need help. There's so many bills to pay. So if the goal is making sure that this marriage works, if this marriage must work, it has to be great. Marriage is a beautiful thing. The man can help the wife to get up to speed, and a lot of people have done it. More households have succeeded doing it than failed. So it's very possible.
Well, in addition to what Madam has said, I want our sister to take a cue from Hebrew chapter 13, verse 4, which says, marriage is honorable, a bed undefiled. Come to think of it, we earlier said that marriage is ordained by God. And anything is ordained by God is beautiful because he created us in his image and likeness. I don't think there is anybody here that is not in the image of God. If that one is accepted, no matter what the situation, adaptability should be very key. We are created as higher animal. Come to think of it, when they gave birth to us, are we like this? We pass through phases of life. We were crawling, we began to walk, we developed to a child, from child to nursery, from nursery to primary, from primary up and until we become adults. And we thin out until we become old. And when the time that God destined us to come back home, we pass to glory. So it's adaptability. For instance, many of us, what we can do now, later in the year in our life, we may not be able to do it. So we should learn to adjust. Human beings are created to adjust to situation, depending on how your conviction is and how readiness you are. And as a woman and as a man that is going to marriage, there are certain things that you saw in that woman before you make advances to her. And there is certain things that a woman saw in a man before he agreed to go together. But there are certain things that may cause that because, technological development has created some little problem. There are many advantages of them, of the technology, but a lot of effort has been done to the fabric of the family. For instance, many of us, during our age, there was nothing like social media. We knew what we passed through before we marry our wives. Many times we'll be going to their houses secretly in the night when their parents are not around, so that you'll be able to see your fiancé. But nowadays, many connections are made on the phone, even without physical contact. How will you be able to assess? How will you be able to assess the adaptability of the person you are bringing to your life? Because it is until the dead to do us part. Many of us don't know the meaning of that phrase. Because of the fora, we just sign off. But there are a lot of things that are involved. Remember, marriage is an examination that you get certificate before the exam. You walk to the answer, not providing answer to question.
Okay. Thank you so much. I would just want to apologize if you have questions. If you have more questions. Our time is up. I see some hands, and I want to apologize. We will bring this topic. We know this topic is a very huge topic. You realize that we had a topic, disagreements and conflicts. We didn't even add resolution to it. Just to let you know that this is just a beginning. We want to throw light on some of the disagreements, and then we'll come back and talk about more of things. We have not even talked about how do you approach, who break the ice when there's a problem in the house. So there are a lot more to talk about. I want to thank my panel, Pastor Rio and Dr. Deaconess Okafo, for being helpful and talking about some of these issues. Just want to let you know that we will come back again with this very topic to talk about more, because I know there are a lot of questions. My sister asked 3. We have only talked about 2. Thank you so much for being here this morning to join us, and God bless you.
Thank you.